Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little different. We are diving into a true crime-style digital investigation of a massive, high-stakes academic dispute. We're going to forensically dissect a dossier packed with server metadata, preprints, and leaked private messages that chronicle a really bitter conflict over mathematical discovery. According to the source documents we have here, this is a clash over who actually built the foundation of a brand new spectral mathematics framework. We're going to trace the digital footprints of this whole mess, stripping away all the noise and the rhetoric to look strictly at what the immutable data tells us. Okay, let's dive right into this by looking at the absolute core contradiction that kicked off this entire investigation. We're looking at two totally contrasting statements from Dr. Ebrahim Elsayed, sent just a few weeks apart. On one hand, we've got a midnight email from July 12th where he actually apologizes, writing, "The omission of your name was an unintentional oversight." But then, in this explosive 1:20 a.m. email blast sent to university boards on August 1st, he completely flips the script. He claims Vogt, quote, knows nothing about ZPIF and was only added out of generosity. I mean, you literally cannot hold both of these realities to be true at the same time.
So how in the world did we get from an apology to a complete reversal? Well, we need to walk step by step through the timeline laid out in the source documents. Back in February 2026, Vogt publishes his foundational SRA framework. Fast forward 3 months to May, and Dr. Elsayed uploads his ZPIF framework without crediting Vogt at all. This naturally triggers a plagiarism complaint, which leads us to that July 12th midnight apology. They actually reach a truce, resulting in a co-authored version 3 paper on July 17th. But then barely 2 weeks later, on August 1st, boom, we get that dramatic public reversal. The thing to remember here, these digital footprints are fixed in stone.
And you know, the chronological bedrock of this whole dispute? It's sitting right here in the metadata. Savio Antonio Vogt's original preprint on Science Open is officially stamped February 17th, 2026. This document establishes absolute priority for the underlying mathematical architecture. The dossier we're examining alleges that the core mechanics of Dr. Elsayed's later work were derived directly from this exact paper months before Elsayed's first submission in May. In the high-stakes world of academic publishing, timestamps like this are the ultimate arbiter of truth. Phase 1. The Midnight Apology and the Truce. Let's get into it. So, at 2:45 a.m. on July 12th, Dr. Elsayed sends what the dossier calls the Midnight Apology. Reading directly from his email here, he says, "I confirm that the omission of your name from references 22 and 23 was an unintentional oversight, not deliberate misconduct. I sincerely apologize." He formally acknowledges Vogt as the original author of the works, and actually pleads with Vogt to withdraw his complaint so his global repository limits can be cleared. In private, this is a complete capitulation. And right after that, this private apology transitions into a highly transactional public truce. Check out this LinkedIn post from Dr. Elsayed on July 17th, celebrating a newly uploaded co-authored paper. Crucially, the text of this post and the paper itself, by the way, explicitly places Dr. Elsayed's ZPIF theory firmly within Vogt's SRA framework. It really looks like a collaborative victory, right? Vogt withdrew his complaint, protecting Elsayed's active accounts, and in return, Elsayed publicly acknowledged that his work actually depended on Vogt's foundational architecture.
Moving on to Phase 2, the Usurper strategy unveils.
But, as you might have guessed, that truce did not hold. The dossier outlines what it terms the Usurper strategy. This is a sudden, aggressive narrative reversal that happens literally the moment Dr. Elsayed's repository accounts are unblocked and secured. Once he's safe, Dr. Elsayed launches his campaign on platforms like LinkedIn, expunging Vogt's name entirely and declaring himself the sole independent founder of a new quadratic school of mathematics. Yet, and here's the kicker, he is still contractually bound by the official version 3 text, which explicitly defines his work as an SRA-aligned revolutionary variant built on the foundational framework of Vogt. So his public marketing is completely ignoring the official academic text. The source documents give us this fascinating, almost real-time look at his behavioral split. On one side, we have Dr. Elsayed's private direct messages to Vogt, pleading for partnership. He's saying things like, "I saw you as a brother, a friend, and a dear colleague, to build a future together." But on the other side, posted almost exactly at the same time, are these public broadcasts declaring his work the music of the universe, claiming sole discovery of these hidden cosmic harmonies. The private dependency completely shatters that public bravado of independence. Which brings us to Phase 3, the mathematical dependency. To truly wrap our heads around this dispute, we've got to strip away all that interpersonal drama and look at the engine under the hood. The dossier dives deep into the actual spectral mathematics to prove that Dr. Elsayed's claims of independence are, well, structurally impossible. In a defense matrix provided by Dr. Elsayed himself to university boards, he argues his ZPIF framework has a novel quadratic term and second-order interactions that are totally absent in Vogt's SRA. He says this proves he invented a whole new school of math. But the counter-indictment dossier argues that this exact defense actually proves his theft. Why? Because you can't just add a highly volatile quadratic term to a complex equation without the whole thing collapsing. Unless, of course, you're plugging it into an already stable engine.
And this is exactly where that engine versus accessory analogy brilliantly comes into play. Vogt's SRA framework contains something called the AM regulator. You can think of it as a structural safety switch or like a damping filter. According to the technical filings, without Vogt's AM regulator, Elsayed's new quadratic terms would cause the mathematics to literally explode into high-frequency chaos. His model only achieves stable, bounded convergence because it is housed directly inside the envelope of Vogt's existing framework. Basically, the accessory relies entirely on the engine to function.
All right, let's shift gears to phase 4, tracing administrative perjury. So the dossier doesn't just allege intellectual property theft, it actually tracks systemic ways the academic review process itself was allegedly manipulated. The sources outline a rapid-fire list of maneuvers here. First, when submitting defenses to ethics panels, Dr. Elsayed allegedly plagiarized the exact typographical layout and section headers of Vogt's prior filings just to create a false sense of procedural symmetry. Second, he initiated an unauthorized parallel publishing scheme on SSRN under sole authorship to siphon credit. And third, which is perhaps the most egregious, he actually weaponized Vogt's email of grace. The very email Vogt sent to save Elsayed's career, he used as an alibi to claim Vogt was harassing him. Absolutely wild. When cornered by those immutable data footprints we talked about, his communication strategy shifted radically. The dossier shows that Dr. Elsayed pivoted straight from aggressive legal threats involving embassies and universities right into claiming victimization. In this specific message, he states, "My very high morals prevented me from doing so because I considered you a brother." It's a classic deflection tactic documented throughout the entire dossier. Deploying highly dramatic emotional appeals and citing one's high morals to somehow bypass those hard questions about server timestamps and mathematical dependency. And finally, phase 5, the digital footprint verdict. We've examined the contradictory emails, the public versus private narratives, and the harsh mathematical reality. The source documents summarize the exact operational phases of this alleged intellectual property takeover. Step 1, appropriate the stable core engine, the SRA framework. Step 2, when caught, use apologies and co-authorship concessions as a tactical shield, just to get those repository bans lifted. Step 3, quietly launch parallel solo publishing pipelines on other platforms. And Step 4, erase the foundational partner from public and commercial spaces, crowning oneself the sole revolutionary founder. It is a calculated anatomy tracked entirely, step, by server metadata. Which leaves us with a pretty critical reflection based on this dossier. We live in an era where every single submission, every edit, and every midnight email leaves an undeletable trace. So when immutable digital footprints so starkly clash with public bravado and marketing, what does it mean for the future of academic integrity? How do institutions protect foundational discoveries when the very mechanisms of collaboration and grace can be weaponized like this? It's a heavy question this digital investigation leaves wide open for the entire scientific community.